All right, Mandy, thanks so much for being on this podcast. My first question that I have for you is tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you started, and then we can go from there.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name's Mandy. I'm a mental health therapist. I started actually because my best friend committed suicide. His mental health struggles and my own too. I wanted to help other people who are struggling through the same thing. And that kind of is what inspired me to get started in this field.
So tell me a little bit about the work that you do nowadays.
I work now two jobs because women's work is never done. Um, I do work for a company and I have my own business as a mental health therapist. I'm very blessed to be able to work remote. I work with people with mood disorders, trauma, domestic violence, anxiety, just to name a few. Although do see people from all walks of life, that's kind of what I specialize in.
hmm And what about the modalities do you use? Do you use I'm not sure if you've heard of CBT or kind of or other modalities, but in your case, what modalities do you use?
Yes, I primarily focus on CBT and then also talk therapy and DBT, which I know you've probably heard before being on this. So I kind of try to tailor each modality to the client. So they'll initially come in and we'll do an intake assessment, kind of to see their symptoms and where they're at, their background a bit, and then seeing what would work best for them. Like cognitive behavioral therapy might be better for someone with anxiety, but then the DBT, which stands for dialectal behavioral therapy, would be, maybe a better fit for someone with like bipolar or borderline personality disorder as far as it has that emotional regulation as a key component.
hmm And what's been your favorite mo modality to use?
Honestly, I really like DBT because I felt like it helped for me too as having therapy. And I feel like that's a really good one. I don't think it works for every single person, but I think it is a key component for a lot of people's growth, especially if there's a lot of high highs and low lows, or, maybe someone who's been stuck in the survival mode, fight or flight for a long time.
hmm And so how do you make sure that you as a clinician, how do you make sure that clients are seen and often heard and understood?
I try to always meet them where they're at and try to hold a safe space, no judgment at all. Um, of trying to be there for them. I think a lot of people too are, lonely, I think, in today's day and age. And so having someone there for them is important.
hmm Yeah, my next question is, what have you learned in doing this kind of work, as a clinician?
Oh, a lot, a lot. Definitely, I would say one, how resilient people are, especially those who have faced, severe trauma, and we can't control the heart or the cards we're dealt, only what to do with them. But I think people's ability to bounce back, for sure. And I love doing this job, experiencing and listening to people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different cultures, hearing different perspectives and life experiences. I think that is um, a great part of the job. And when I used to work with children, actually, I started off as a therapist for children. I think the children are definitely watching you and mimicking the caregivers' behaviors. So I saw that a lot. And I think that people want to do better with their lives.
hmm So you said you worked with the children before, but like, um, are you still doing that now, or is it kind of like in the back burner, you know?
Um, in the beginning, I did work with children and did the internship hours and all. Um, I worked with children, I want to say, for maybe a year or two, and then I started shifting. And now, oh, my cat's joining us.
Yes.
Is that
Hmm.
my daughter there? But now for the last, I want to say maybe year and a half, I've been working with adults, just adults online.
Hmm. And what has it been like to transition from like working with children to adults? Is there some sort of difference that you notice?
Maybe difference in the type of issues, maybe a bit. Some similar issues, probably like anxiety across the board and social anxiety since COVID, a huge spike in that, I would say, especially for the kiddos, but also affecting, adults as well. I think maybe the kids, it was more of you would see behavioral issues, in school and kind of usually acting, if there's any kind of acting out or behavioral issues, it was usually, kids who didn't really have any parental role models or were in the foster care system and not having that family unit that we saw a lot. And then And I think, kids in getting into gangs, if they not don't have that sense of belonging at home, I saw that a lot. Um, and then with adults, I would say primarily the issues are usually like anxiety and depression, and then maybe, some of those other disorders after that. But we do see social anxiety, I would say, across the board and generalized anxiety disorder. I think the difference too between the kids versus the adults, I really like working with adults. I think that was my kids, they're there because someone else signed them up for it and they don't really want to be there. Um, so you're trying to figure out how to make it fun, engaging, and still doing that with the adults. But I think I like it more because they have signed themselves up for it and they're ready. They're ready to do the work. They're ready to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything that you would like to learn in terms of something new, like as a clinician? Is there some sort of thing that you want to focus on, or like something new? Like, because I always ask clinicians this on my podcast, like, is there anything that you'd like to learn as a clinician that you're like, I'm curious about this?
Yes, yes, I have a whole list. Um, I definitely want to learn more about EMDR, which is a type of therapy really helpful for PTSD, um, and like flashbacks, or trauma, negative feelings about yourself. I want to learn that. It's just the training's expensive and the student loans won't pay themselves, but it's on my list. So I want to learn that. And I do enjoy researching like holistic wellness, any like the vitamins, supplements, herbs, minerals too that maybe people are lacking. Um, and kind of I want to learn more too about the gut microbiome and how it affects mental health too. I enjoy researching that. And then I have a whole list of maybe like different specialties and maybe researching more into like certain disorders and how to help. I enjoy researching like the current updates too on these, or kind of if my client will have comes to me with some kind of a symptom or issue, and I'm like, I haven't worked, yet with this before, then I'll be looking it up, researching and seeing what I can find to help them too.
Hmm. I actually interviewed someone on my podcast about holistic wellness. I'd be happy to connect
Oh,
with this person after this call if you'd like.
yes, yes, please, thank you.
Hmm. Lastly, you know, who was not lastly, but who was your mentor that you sort of looked up to, and who was kind of the guide for you in your mental health career profession?
that's a good question. I have looked out having good supervisors, because I know at first you do have to, when you're just starting out as a LMHCA and getting your license, you have to undergo supervision, for years. So I have lucked out having good people for supervision. Then I do attend my own therapy too as a client, and I love my therapist. And I feel like they've all been great role models, I would say too, for getting into the field.
Hmm. You said that you would attend your own therapy in addition to being a clinician. So what is that like? What's that sort of dynamic like?
I feel like it's really helpful. Definitely, it's like, as therapists need our own therapy too, just because we're regular humans as well. I think, that goes through stuff. I think it's essential. It's always a work in progress, but to try to always take care of ourselves because we're the first line defense, if you would say, right? If I'm going through it and it's a rough patch, it's going to be harder to be there for my clients, which of course, stuff happens and that does happen, but always trying my best to, like go to the gym and go to my own therapy, take care of my own health. Oh, there's sorry.
Yeah,
But always trying my best to be healthy and be mentally okay too, mentally stable myself for my
y
clients.
yeah. Because I remember I talked to another guest of mine, and she said that oftentimes, like mental health is for crazy people. That obviously is not true. It's for everyone. I myself um are are seeking mental health therapy or have mental health therapy services. So it's been useful for me to do that. So yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, I feel like it's useful. I always look at it as like a ongoing um thing too of like keeping that. And yeah, I do believe it's very useful. And I'm so glad too that you're going too. Exactly. It's not for crazy people. I know that's like kind of a negative stigma or maybe that um in like previous generations, but I feel like it's good for everyone. And I think too, it's like people go to therapy, right? Because the other people in their life wouldn't. I feel like usually they're there as a result from trauma, whether it's child abuse, relationship abuse, some kind of traumas they're witnessing, experiencing, or their own, mental health symptoms that kind of make it a challenge to get through day to day sometimes.
Hmm.
And so I
Lastly,
think, yeah.
lastly, what tips or advice would you give to those who want to do what you're doing, who want to become a mental health professional like you are?
I would say trusting in yourself. I do think having a good supervisor too of who you're doing your clinical supervision with, I think having a good one is really important and trying to find one that's maybe free or included with their job because if you pay for it separate, it's really pricey. And I would say taking all the trainings you can through the workplace, that would be good to kind of like maybe get a head start on that early on. I think that's helpful. And I do think it's good doing this work because not only is it healing, I think it's so rewarding to seeing the growth in clients. I think it makes it all worth it. And definitely I would say too, trying to find balance in the career and your personal life can be hard. I think at first it's very emotionally taxing, but then you kind of have to find like a flow to it. But I think it is maybe more susceptible to burnout. Um, Especially maybe who I have friends, that have also that I worked with in the past that I feel like if they were more introverted, maybe taking that into account too, that maybe, it's too much to handle like 12 back-to-back appointments a day, talking to people. And I think it's a really helpful career path though, because it's helped like reducing the stigma too, like you were saying, with mental health.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All righty.